and I think you can clearly see a difference, especially if we open these up side by side right here. So Gemini on the left and ChatGPT is on the right. Google's new AI art model called Gemini 2.5 Flash, also known as Nano Banana, is a game changer for print on demand, and I think it takes the throne for the best model that you can use right now. And in this video, I'm going to show you why it might just make you cancel your ChatGPT subscription. So I've been using the new Nano Banana model inside of Google AI Studio and LM Arena. I've been running them all morning and I've not run into any rate limits. So I'll have a link to both of them down below. Just a quick tutorial though for LM Arena, because it's not very obvious how to use the model. You need to change the mode up here from battle to direct chat, and then you also need to enable generate images down here, and then you can change the model. You can just type in Nano and then it will come up straight away, and you can enter a prompt, attach an image, etc. Now in the Google AI Studio, it's very straightforward. You just type a prompt down here or attach an image and it uses Nano Banana straight away. But what I've also got open right here is a ChatGPT 5 tab, because I want to run the same exact prompts at the same time so that you can kind of see a comparison of which of these tools is more accurate and also which one of them is faster, because GPT, if you've ever tried to generate images with it, you probably know it's not the fastest. So let's start off right here inside of the Google AI Studio. I'm going to attach a nurse design right here with kind of a teal floral pattern embedded into it and a bow underneath, and I'll say change the pattern to pink. So very simple conversational prompt, and we'll do the exact same inside of ChatGPT 5. This is because so far I've been using ChatGPT 5 a lot because I think it's really good at this. It's just a simple conversation and you can make changes, you can scale out a style to something else, but as you can see, this model is already done. So just in the time it took me to paste the prompt in here, this is already finished. It took 9.6 seconds and the result is fantastic. So it's changed everything to pink. The pattern, if you look at the original, looks almost identical. There's no real changes to the pattern itself, and it's just changed the color like I asked it to. Meanwhile, this right here is still getting started. So let's go ahead and make another change to this. Let's say change the text to teacher. And if we hit run, it's going to start its response right here. It has a counter as well of the seconds that it's taking, which is quite cool because ChatGPT doesn't have that. And now we've got teacher with the exact same style, the exact same color scheme. Nothing else has been amended except the word at the top is spelled correctly and looks really, really good. Meanwhile, this is only just starting to generate the top of this image right here to change it to pink. So I think this is starting to show you the power of this new model. Let's go ahead and say change the pattern to cherries, right? So completely change it, not just the color. This should be a little bit more complex, and hit run. By the way, this step took 12 seconds, so not much more than this first initial change that we made. ChatGPT still thinking, still generating right here. It's about halfway done. And there we go. It's finished now. It's changed it to pink, but it's also made it look worse in a way. For some reason, this is now like a gray or black, like almost like a silvery glitter effect. The pattern in the word nurse has like black strokes in it. I don't really understand that. I only wanted the design to be changed to pink, not to black and like silver as well. So it's done a job, somewhat changed the color, taken way longer, and kind of messed it up for us. So not the greatest first step right here, but let's carry on with the next one and say change the text to teacher, and we'll send that off. Meanwhile, if we go back to this right here, it's finished and it's added cherries to the word teacher. Looks pretty decent. I would have hoped to also see it in the side of the bow, but at least it was quite quick. 10 seconds right here just to change the pattern in the text to cherries. How about adding text to this? We've not tested that yet, so add the words EST 2025 underneath the bow. If we run that now, again, this is something that ChatGPT is pretty good at. You can easily add things to your design without having to, edit a prompt or pull it into a design software. So let's see how this does. 12 seconds right here, and it's added established 2025 underneath. It's even matched the font style, that kind of college font, to the word, so pretty good job with that. Meanwhile, this is finished generating, so that felt a little bit quicker. We now have the word teacher right here, and the bow is improved, which is quite surprising. It looks completely different to what we had here, and it's definitely changed the words effectively. So I'm actually pretty happy with this result now, and it kind of shows the difference between the two tools, because ChatGPT, with every step, not only does it do what I ask it in the prompt, but it also regenerates the entire image. It completely changed the bow, even though we didn't really tell it to do that. Whereas Gemini, if you look at the transition from step to step right here, it just does what we tell it to do. It doesn't change this bow down here if we just want the word teacher changed. It doesn't regenerate any of that. It keeps it the same, which is pretty good. So let's try change the pattern to cherries inside of ChatGPT 5. Meanwhile, let's try put these designs onto a t-shirt mockup, and we'll actually combine a few of these. So I'll drag this in here with the established number. I'll also take the one without and just the cherry pattern, and then this pink one right here, and we'll just combine them all in one t-shirt mockup. Hit run on this. This is something that's been really impressive with Gemini, because I'm pretty sure ChatGPT 5 cannot do this. Let's see what's happened right here. Change the pattern to cherries, has finished generating, but I can't see any cherries.
No cherry.
Has anything even changed? Not really. The text right here has some funky, weird, strokes in it now, but they don't look like cherries. The bow looks pretty much the same. So yeah, not too impressed with that. Don't know why. Maybe it's kind of in the nature of ChatGPT that the longer you go on in a chat, that the less it, pays attention to your prompt.
Hey, wake up!
That's been my experience, at least. I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but maybe it's down a rabbit hole right here and it can't get out of it again. Let's try the next step though, adding these words. So we'll hit run on that as well. And meanwhile, the t-shirt mockup right here is finished. And so we do have all of these designs on separate mockups. Actually, this one has cherries in it, when I think the one we attached didn't. But as you can see, it combined 3 separate design files into one mockup. What if we say, make this into more of a lifestyle mockup, hit run again. And by the way, this took 17 seconds. So it's a little bit slower when it comes to generating an actual mockup. The design changes up here took about 10 to 12 seconds each. Meanwhile, adding the words right here, it's still getting started as usual, taking forever. And we already have a lifestyle mockup. Now, it's only one design right here. I did want all 3, but I do think that looks pretty decent. It knew to add kind of a classroom setting, and it looks fairly realistic with this shadow right here in the design. But let's try put all 3 designs in the same lifestyle mockup. Let's see if it understands that command, even though the designs weren't attached to that prompt. Meanwhile, this is finished generating, and we do now have somewhat of a representation of cherries in this. Looks a little bit strange, and it's probably, if you zoomed out, you're not going to be able to tell that these are cherries in the text because they're quite small and smudged, but it has added the word established 2025 underneath. But you can see how this is way more random. It just doesn't really follow the prompt here, and then suddenly cherries appear even though we just wanted to add some words. So it's all over the place, and it takes a lot longer than Gemini, which is frustrating because I haven't paid a dime to Gemini yet, but I've been paying a lot of money to ChatGPT. Meanwhile, this right here now says the content is blocked. I'm not sure why, but anyway, if you're not happy with a result like this, a quick tip is you can also hit rerun. So if you click that, it should regenerate the entire image, which is actually quite a good option because it's a lot faster than it would be elsewhere. So within 10 to 20 seconds, you have a new option to choose from. Now, it's still not put all designs together, but I think you can see that it's made changes to the mockup itself right here. But anyway, let's try the same thing with ChatGPT. I've attached 3 of its designs right here and said, put these onto a t-shirt mockup. See what happens with that. We'll let it generate, and meanwhile, we'll compare the 2 results right here. So on the left, we've got Gemini 2.5 Flash, and on the right, ChatGPT 5. Now, one important detail is this one on the right took like 3 times as long to generate and was a complete headache. On the left was very smooth and quick. I personally think this on the left stands out more in the sense that you can actually see the cherry pattern. We've got the font at the bottom that matches the top phrase or the text at the top a lot better. And on the right, everything just kind of blurs into one. You can't see cherries. Everything is a very similar hue of pink. And the words at the bottom don't really match the college style. And considering the one on the right hand side took a lot longer, in my opinion, the left wins this easily. But if you've got a different opinion, drop it in the comments down below. Meanwhile, ChatGPT didn't really understand the assignment and just used one of the designs and placed it on a mock-up. But I think you can also tell that it doesn't really look like these designs. It's regenerated the design itself. If we look at the old result right here from Gemini, this actually understood the prompt a lot better and actually merged all of them into separate t-shirt mockups right here in this same photo. And whilst I prefer the kind of wooden flat lay mockup style, Gemini just did something that's way more impressive in this case. So I've got a pocket style design right here of a goose wearing a sombrero, and it's in this American flag themed pocket. So I'll try some different prompts and again compare Gemini to ChatGPT. One more side note though, if you struggle with removing backgrounds, I would recommend sticking around to the end of the video because Gemini or Nano Banana can actually help you with making background removal more easy, especially if you have very complicated backgrounds. So stay tuned for that, but let's go ahead and say, change the sombrero to a baseball cap, the animal to a raccoon, and the flag to Brazil. And then we'll take that, we'll hit run and do the exact same thing right here with GPT-5 selected. So this is getting started. Meanwhile, this is already finished. And yeah, it's done it perfectly. We've got a baseball cap, we've got a raccoon, and we've got the Brazilian flag. It looks very, very accurate, and it's stayed very close to the original style. We've even got the hands right here. That's been taken over by the raccoon's paws, so I'm pretty impressed with that. Meanwhile, this is still generating as expected, but what about a more simple prompt? So if we just said, make this Christmas themed, what would it come up with? No real direction there. I'm imagining like a Christmas hat and more Christmassy colors perhaps, but let's see what it does for us. Meanwhile, this is still getting started. And let's watch this page right here, getting up to 10 seconds, and it's finished. We've now got the raccoon wearing a Santa hat. It's wearing gloves as well, which is an interesting idea. And the Brazilian flag has a Christmas tree inside it. All right. That's something that I wouldn't have come up with myself. It does look kind of strange if you zoomed out. You can't really tell what's going on with the flag, and it maybe obstructs the flag a little bit, but still, it's done a good job. Now, these are actual stars, not just smudges, and I'm pretty impressed with that. What about, let's make it more suitable for Independence Day. Maybe it can come up with some ideas to completely change the style to July the 4th. And let's take a look at ChatGPT. It's still not finished anything. Can't even see the top of the image. There we go. That's the baseball cap, I'm guessing. But as you can see, it's incredibly slow. So let's look at this, and now it's started to mess up. Okay, so it's not perfect. It does eventually start to break. I didn't really want the Brazilian flag to still be there. It makes no sense, right? But what about make this Halloween themed? Does it maybe swap out the animal for a ghost? Does it still keep the Brazilian flag? I don't know. We're going to find out. At least testing things right here is a lot quicker. Wow. Okay. That's pretty impressive. I'm very, very happy with that. Meanwhile, this is now finished. Yay. So we do have a raccoon wearing a baseball cap, and it has taken the Brazilian flag and placed it there. So that's actually a good job. It's just taken way, way longer than anything else. What have we now told it to make this Christmas themed? Can it come up with a better idea than we had right here from Gemini 2.5? And what if we say add a funny, suitable phrase? I'm really curious if this AI is any better at coming up with funny phrases than ChatGPT would be, and also how it lays this out, because it doesn't necessarily know this for a t-shirt. So let's see what happens. Let's actually make it English instead. That would help. Meanwhile, the Christmas theme design right here is still getting started. So if you're still not contemplating at least trying out this new Google model, I don't know what you're doing. You probably don't really value your time, because this is horrible. I love this result, but considering the one inside of here just looks just as good and took a fraction of the time, I think Gemini is the way forward. So now we've got a new one right here, Halloween Candy Heist. Not sure if that's particularly funny, but it has added some text right there. It's also not very easy to read, so it's not perfect, and it does fall apart with very, very basic prompts perhaps, but I think changing this style right here, it's shown that it does a pretty good job most of the time. And there we go. So we now finally have the Christmas themed raccoon. Not sure about the pocket. It doesn't really feel like Christmas to me. I know it has the right colors, but yeah, just a star is not really Christmas themed enough. You could have put a tree there or something more relatable. So yeah, it's done an all right job. I do like the Santa hat, but besides that, it wasn't really worth waiting 3 minutes for. And it does kind of feel like watching paint dry when that slider really slowly goes down. It reminds me of the old days of the internet where you had to wait for a web page to load, like pixel by pixel. That's how ChatGPT 5 or the GPT Image 1 model feels. Another example where Gemini is really useful for print-on-demand and better than ChatGPT is customizing designs. So let's say you've got an Etsy or a Shopify customer that sent you a picture of their dog. So I've got this image of Milo right here, and I've just requested for it to be turned into a detailed sketch, in brackets, just the dog. And within just 8 seconds, we got this result, which looks fantastic. Definitely looks like Milo. I could have probably also told it to add the name Milo underneath, but anyway, now turn it into a cartoon superhero, in case that's kind of a custom offering you want to put on Etsy. And I think, again, it does look like Milo. It does have some of its features, it has the same pose, and it even came up with a bone right here for the Superman logo. Instead of copying a brand, it just replaced that with something else, which is quite cool. Then I said, show him floating in space in a realistic photo style. That didn't really work out the way I had planned, but then I just attached this photo again and said, show him floating in a pool on a flamingo floaty, which actually looks pretty realistic with the different lighting, and it still looks like Milo. And then I said, give him a sombrero and a pina colada, which also looks pretty funny, and it still looks like Milo. Same thing with ChatGPT. This took me about 10 minutes instead of 2 minutes with Gemini. The sketch right here looks good. I'm not going to say that looks worse than Gemini. I think it's a really good sketch. Then I told it to make this into a superhero design, which it did. It took forever, but I'm not really keen on the fact that there's actual superhero logo there, and it doesn't look like Milo anymore, whereas the other one definitely looked like Milo. And then I said, show him floating in a pool, again with a flamingo floaty, and it didn't really understand that. It turned him into a cartoon version. So I said, nope, I wanted it to look photorealistic, which it then did, but as you can probably see, it doesn't look like Milo anymore. It just looks like a generic dachshund, at least to me. Maybe it's not obvious to you, but with these customized listings or offerings, it is obviously important to be more accurate. And whilst this does look like a cool photo of a dog in a pool and floaty, it doesn't really look like the reference image anymore. Nano Banana is also really good at customizing or editing your mockups. So if you work with mockups a lot, this might just get you around fiddling with your Photoshop and Canva all the time to make changes. So we've got this mockup right here, Spooky Mums Club, caffeine required. We've got 3 skeletons with different hair colors, and they're all holding a coffee cup. So quite a complex design, and it's a black sweater in this mockup. She's holding a mug, fingers are kind of intertwined. So you would think AI would really struggle doing some changes to this mock-up without messing up anything else. And I told it to change the jumper or the sweater color to gray. And if we open this up, it's done that very effectively. The design still says Spooky Mums Club, caffeine required. It has the different hair colors, the coffee cups. So there's not really much of a change, if at all, in the design. It looks exactly the same. The hand still has 5 fingers. Everything is pretty much the same. The hair has slightly changed, like the angle of the hair up here is now down a bit. But besides that, it's followed the command perfectly of just changing the color of the sweater. And this just took 9 seconds, by the way. Change it into a t-shirt. Also worked. Now it's got no sleeves. It's generated the arms very effectively, and it looks very realistic. The design still looks the same. Next step, change the background scene into fall outdoors, and yep, now we've got the face even. I didn't really request that, but it's done a good job of it. Still, the design looks the same. Her hand looks the same. She's sitting on a bench, which makes more sense, and we have a kind of an outdoor park right here in the fall. So perfect job for that. And then I said make it close up, and for some reason it went into this blocked content again. Sometimes happens, not sure why. Anyway, same process in ChatGPT. This took me way longer, and the results, as you can see, are not quite the same. So change the jumper to gray. This is the result I got after about 5 minutes probably. And for some reason we have like additional images down here. The jumper is now gray, and the design still looks somewhat similar. Next step, change it into a t-shirt. So if I open this up, it's done that all right, but the design is just completely ruined now at this point. So there's no more coffee cups. The faces of these skeletons look horrible. It's not the same design anymore. And the hand right here is also starting to really look weird and deformed, generally looking very plasticky and like flat, not realistic. So already at this stage, just turning it into a t-shirt, the original design is not really recognizable anymore and has completely been altered. So I didn't even bother carrying on because these took way too long to generate. And I think you can clearly see a difference, especially if we open these up side by side right here. So Gemini on the left and ChatGPT is on the right. Now, if you've been generating AI art for a while, then you've probably at one point struggled to remove the background. This is an image that looks pretty cute, very nice style. It has that kind of watercolor feel. But if we look at the edge right here, the background is going to be impossible to remove from this. It's kind of this like foggy, paint splashy outline, and that's very, very tough to do. Whether you're using a vectorizer, an upscaler, an automated background remover, Photoshop, it doesn't really matter. All of those fail or struggle massively with this kind of style. What you can do in that case is you can drop the image into Google AI Studio and you can say remove the watercolor splashes, remove the shadow around the graphics, and make sure it's isolated on a solid white background. So very simple prompt, and it doesn't remove the background for you, but it cleans it up. So if we look at the end result right here, this is so much better, and the ghost is unchanged. The ghost and these flowers, the pumpkins, look exactly as they do right here in the original. It's just gotten rid of all of that really horrible, watercolor thing around the edge. So now this is going to be super easy to remove the background, especially with a vectorizer or with Photoshop. If you just select white and get rid of it in all of the surrounding area, you can use Jose's background remover tool as well, which I've spoken about in the past. So yeah, massive change right here. Really, really handy. If you try the same thing in ChatGPT, it does kind of do the job. But if we look at this end result, there's still a lot of gray right here, kind of around the edge. So it only does it like halfway for some reason. And if you focus on the ghost as well, it changes it. Like it regenerates the ghost graphic. The pattern right here is not really the same anymore. The colors look different as well. So yes, it helps you out a little bit, but Gemini, again, does way better at a fraction of the speed. If you are sick and tired of having loads of different subscriptions or having to pay for credits to use AI art models, just check out this video next, where I show you a tool that lets you access all of the best AI art models, including Flux, ChatGPT, and Ideogram, totally for free.